Hello, this is George Demaree, and how are you? And thank you for allowing me to share with you what we do at Money Matters. Remember what our mission. Our mission is to promote financial literacy, to help you come up with business ideas and employment opportunities, to champion strategic thinking, to help you think critically about making financial decisions, to also share and to improve credit worthiness, and finally, to help you break free from financial slavery, and that's debt. Now, there's a number of reasons why people stay broke, and I'm going to highlight those 8 primary reasons, and then over the course of today and weeks to come, strategy to use to get past those reasons. One is folks have a tendency to ignore debt. Don't ignore debt. If you have it, come up with ways of attacking debt and getting out of debt. 2 is folks don't stick to a budget. You know, there's reasons that corporations and businesses have line item budgets because it helps them when they're spending and it helps them to generate money. You don't know how to make money until you really know where your money's going. Third, they lack emergency funds. There are always going to be emergencies, no matter what. You know, just recently, a refrigerator goes down or the AC unit goes down. You always need to have emergency funds for those things that happen that you had no idea that was going to come up. They forget to pay themselves first. I just asked my son today, are you in a 401k? That is a great way of paying yourself first. And even for those who don't, come up with a way where a portion of your income every month goes into a savings account or a checking account that you cannot touch right away. I told him that once you start saving 5, 10, depending on how much money you make, as much as 15%, once you do it, trust me, you won't miss that money. Next, people earn or spend more money than they earn. How often, not as much lately, but how often have you heard a professional athlete, for an example, who makes $1 million and ends up being broke? But if you spend $1 million and you spend 1.1, then you haven't made any money at all. Always try your best to live under your means and not right at your means. Sixth, people have a tendency to focus on liabilities and not assets. When you buy things, most everything that you buy depreciates in value. When can you buy things? Think about buying things that grow in value when you purchase them. Next, have an opportunity or take the opportunities to invest in yourself. How can you make you better? You know, what can you do to improve your circumstance? Will you go back to school? Will you learn another trade? Will you ask help from someone else? Always look for ways of making yourself better. I've told senior managers many, many times, you can tell how good of a manager you are by how you make people around you better. I think you should use that same idea in things of making yourself better. Read, understand, get information. There's nothing like looking for information to make yourself better. And last but not least, people have a tendency to want to make themselves happy today and sacrificing what's going on tomorrow. Remember, what goes on today is a direct reflection of what you did 2 months ago, 3 months ago, or 3 years ago. I remember not so long ago, Reverend Cosby said that there was a guy that was 35 years old that wasn't happy with what he was doing. So he said, well, why don't you come to Simmons? Why don't you go back to school? And this guy says, well, it'll take 4 years, and I won't finish until I'm 39. And Pastor Cosby said, well, you're going to be 39 anyway. Would you rather be 39 in the position that you're in today or 39 with a college degree that helps you to move forward? Moving on. I'd like to continue with the Serenity Prayer. And I love the Serenity Prayer because it says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. Now, there are tons of things that we can't change. We can't change the pandemic. It's here. We've got to navigate around the pandemic. We can't change the fact that maybe there are kids aren't going in school right now and they're learning online. We have to navigate around that. There are certain times because of this pandemic that you can't change the fact that maybe that you lost your job or you were furloughed. But what can you do based on those things? Now, there's a book that I read not so long ago, actually a number of years ago, called Good to Great. And it talked about a guy by the name of Admiral Stockdale. And Admiral Stockdale was the highest ranking POW during the Vietnam War. And they asked Admiral Stockdale, he was a POW for more than 8 years. And a number of the people who he was in prison with at the time didn't make it, passed away. So they asked the Admiral, they said, Admiral, how did you make it though some of the other folks didn't? And he said, those were the optimists. Now, that's not to say not being optimistic. He talked about having a duality of thought. And let me tell you what that meant. It meant that he understood the brutal reality of his current situation, but yet always had faith that he could get over. That you know that we're in this pandemic and you know things are going on, so you understand the gravity of our current situation, but always having faith that you could get over it. The next thing in the Serenity Prayer is having courage to work on things that you can control. Will you do it? Will you make the change? I believe that if a person needs to make a change, it's about critical thinking and changing their thought. There's a thing called the law of correspondence. And let me share with you what the law of correspondence says. It says the outer you is dependent on the inner you. So if you want to change anything on the outer you, it needs to start with the inner you. So you've got to think critically. And let me also share this, most people don't. My son, my younger son, who was a manager at another company that I won't mention by name, about 4 or 5 years ago, I'm sitting at the radio station, he calls, he says, you know, Dad, I made a discovery. And I said, well, what's that, George? He said, I discovered that common sense just ain't that common. And I said, no, it's not, because people do not think critically. Critical thinking and common sense go hand in hand. And the reason that people don't is because of one, there are two primary reasons. One is because, first of all, people take personal biases, and they use personal biases in making decisions. And the second thing people do is they use emotion, they use irrational emotions to make decisions. Now, when you are dealing with your money, you've got to the very best of your ability, take irrational emotions out of it. Now that's difficult. Let me tell you why that's so difficult. In the 70s, we were exposed to approximately 500 to 1,500 selling messages, advertising messages during the course of a day. As of today, 50 years later, now we're exposed to as many as 10,000 selling messages a day. And those selling messages are designed to connect with you emotionally, to make you make purchases on the whim. Try your best that when you are about to spend your money, that you stop back, you think about it, and just don't make them just based on what's going on at the moment. Now, how do you do that? Well, one of the techniques that I've learned to do, because we all make financial decisions based on emotions, we all make them on an impulse. Many times they're done like that on impulse. How often do you go online and you're looking for one item, but because you search an item in another category, something that you look for comes back? So tell you what you do. I call it the law of 24 hours. Do this. Before you make a major purchase that you haven't done research on, and it's on a whim, step back. Give it 24 hours. Think about what you do before you do it. Go home and pray on it. What are the circumstances for spending this money today? Look for different reasons to do this. Also remember that the majority of the things that you purchase today go down in value immediately. That living room suit that you decided to buy on a whim that costs $5,000 today, if you tried to sell it the next day, maybe you could get $3,500 for it. And if you tried to sell it a year later, maybe you could get $2,000 for it. Remember, those are depreciating assets. And many retailers are focusing on your emotions, trying to get you to make your purchase and make decisions with your money. Remember that if you can't, for the most part, if you can't pay cash, try your best to stay away from buying things on credit. So, but let's take a minute to talk about a car and purchasing a car. The average cost, as of today, the average cost of a small car is about $20,000. The average cost of a mid-sized car is $25,000. The average cost of a minivan is $32,000. The average cost of a trucks are very popular now, is $41,000. And the average cost of a mid-sized luxury car is $55,000. So other than your home is the biggest ticket item that you will purchase. And there are many ways they try to get you to purchase cars that you may not be ready for. So again, let me tell you a story. A story about a lady who was a friend of mine, an acquaintance of mine. And she owned a 2016 Honda Accord. Very nice car. She'd had it for 3.5 years, bought it on a 60-month note, took it to get serviced every 5,000 miles, every time it was ready to be serviced. Well, when she did, every time she walked in the door, a salesperson would come in and say, "Hey, would you like the new car? Would you like to trade that in? That's a nice car." And she resisted it. Now, she has 20 more months to pay on this car. She's paying $400 a month. She goes in and gets the car serviced again. And this guy said, "Well, we have a car, a 2020 Honda Accord, base price with all the bells and whistles for $32,000. You can get it on sale today for $28,000. Well, they know, and auto dealers know, that once they get you in the car, that's 50% of the battle. Because there's something about a new car. There's something about a smell of a new car. It can't be duplicated. I don't know how they do it, but I don't care what make of car it is. I don't care if it's domestic or import. There's a certain aroma that a new car has that will cause you to get attached to that car emotionally. So she goes, she likes the car. Now let's paint this picture. Here's a person who has a car that only owes 20 more months to pay. She's paying $400 a month, which means she owes right around $8,000 on this car. Now, the retail value of that car, because it was a nice car, is $18,000. So she was $10,000, quote unquote, to the good. When she went to explore trading the car in, remember, you don't get retail value you get trade-in value. And the trade-in value of that car was $13,600. So now she's test driving this car. She's become emotionally attached to this car. Remember, emotions. And she decides that maybe it's time to purchase this car. The dealer says, you can get this new car, and this new car, brand new car with extra whistles that she didn't have in the other car, for only an additional $30 a month. $30 a month. So her payment is going to go from $400 a month to $430. And just for that extra $30, you can get a new car. But that's not what happens. Now let's paint this picture. I want you to understand how to handle your money and how to build wealth, and how making bad decisions get out of the way of you building wealth. So she gets a car for $38,000. She only has $5,400 to put down because she owed $8,000 against the $13,600 that she owed of the value of the car. So now she has to finance around $22,600, not counting tax. When you factor in the tax to this, now she has to finance $23,956. Now, this is a person who has good credit. She's getting this money at 3%. So the cost of purchasing the money for this car was around $1,871. Now remember this, audience. When you buy something on credit, you're not only buying the item that you're buying on credit, you're also purchasing the money to buy the item. So there's two purchases being made. So now you have a person who at one time only owed $8,000 on a car. Now she's deciding to finance almost $24,000 to buy a new car. Once you add in the money that she owed in financing, now she owes $25,827. Now, look what happened because of that decision. She had a nice car. There was a 2016. She only owed $8,000 on that car. That car was going to be paid off in 20 months. Now, all of a sudden, she owes almost $26,000 on a car that she's going to owe for the next 60 months. And she's gone from, remember what wealth is. Wealth is assets minus liabilities, and one comes out at the bottom. Example, if you have a home that's worth $200,000, you owe $100,000, you have $100,000 in wealth. Same thing with that car. So now instead of having $10,000 worth of equity in the car, now because, also remember this, what happens when you purchase that $28,000 car? What happens the moment that you write it off the lot? Well, it goes down 20%. For an example, let me share with you how it went down 20%. Remember, the value of her old car was $18,000, but they only gave her $13,600 for it. That's around 25. That's around 25%. So here she is, with about to be out of debt in 20 months, who could take a portion of that money and maybe invest it in something else, who went further in debt. And what even makes it even worse is that she had buyer's remorse. She did. 3 days later, she tried to take it back. Couldn't take it back because they sold her car. So who won in that scenario? She didn't. Let me tell you who won. The bank won, because the bank's going to make almost $2,000 on the financing of the car, though she has good credit at 3%. And we're going to talk about that in a moment as well. Tell you who else won? The dealer won, because they gave her $13,600 for a car, that was valued at 18, and they probably sold it at 20. Let me tell you what's going on with used cars right now. There's a shortage. So the cost of new cars have gone up 10 to 20% in the last 3 months. It's difficult purchasing a used car these days at a good rate. So they made probably as much as $7,000 on her car, made another couple of $1,000s on the new car, and she's $25,000 in debt on a car that's now valued at only 23. And let me also share with you what would happen if you had bad credit or you weren't as credit worthy as she is. It's important to understand credit worthiness. That's one of the items that we focus on in Money Matters. If she had bought that car at 10%, the payments wouldn't have been $430 like it was at 3%. The payment would have been $510. Think about that. So at 3%, that money cost her $31 a month in finance charge. At 10%, that money cost her $110 a month in finance charge. So the cost of that money went from $1,871 to $6,583 just because she didn't have good credit. That is very, very important. Now, what if she really had bad credit? What if she had to pay 15% for that car? Now, then the cost of that money, not the cost of the car, the cost of the money, the finance charge would have been $171 a month, and the interest total over 60 months is $10,000. Credit worthiness. You've got to be able to pay your bills. And it's the same way in all your purchases. I was talking to a friend of mine right before this program, and I told him, I said, the average American has about $8,000 in credit card debt. Well, his thought was that wasn't very bad. Well, I didn't think that way. I said, and let me tell you why I didn't think that way, because credit card debt is hard to pay off. Credit card debt has high interest rates. The average interest rate for a credit card is around 18 to 19%. The average rate for a credit card, if you got a new credit card and you have good credit, is about 14, 15%. So let me share with you how long it would take for you to pay off $8,000 in credit card debt at 18%. If you pay $200 a month, it would take you 4.5 years. That's the reason that credit card debt keeps people in debt. We want to give you information to help you to become debt-free. I think of some of the best days of my life. Best days. Graduating from college, the birth of my children, marriage to my current wife, just best days of my life. Let me give you another one. The day I paid off that last credit card. That day when I knew that I was in control of my money and that I could use credit cards to help me. Now, there's a way that you can use credit cards to help you. If you can use, there are credit cards when you have good credit that will give you points, depending on what you need. If you travel a lot, some will give you travel points. If you just want the cash, some will give you cash points. So some will give you as much as 4%, up into X amount of money that you're willing to charge per year. That's when you're using someone else's money to benefit you. Now, let's talk about, again, credit worthiness. What does good credit look like? Your goal is to have a credit number that is minimum 680 or more. preferably 700 or more. But if it's 680 or more, you have a good opportunity to get a good interest rate when you need money, because there will be a time when you may need money. There will be a time when you need to buy a new car. There will be a time when an emergency happens and you need to have a credit card or to use credit. Try your best, try your daggone best to get it over 700. And let me share with you, and I've shared this before, but let's visit this again. What does good credit look like? When people give you a credit rating, what information do they use and help you to generate that good credit number? Well, 35% of your credit number comes from your payment history. Do you pay your bills on time? Pay your bills on time. Pay them, 35%. It's called, if I could be so bold, is keeping your word. And when you have problems that you didn't see coming, let them know ahead of time. Be proactive. We've talked about this months ago, and I thought it was worth us revisiting again. Be proactive. If you can't make a payment, get on the phone. Make sure they don't take it against your credit number, but pay your bills on time. The next, then 30% of that money is called credit utilization. What do you do? How do you use your credit? What are certain things that you do? Do you have credit cards? Do you have a mortgage payment? Do you have a car payment? Creditors, in order to get a good number, they want to see that you have a variety of ways that people have given you credit, and that no matter what it is, are you a person who pays your mortgage on time but doesn't pay their car payment on time? No. Pay them all on time. Number 15%, number three, 15% of that number is the age of your credit. How long have you had credit? The longer you have credit, the more they give you toward that credit number. You know, if you've only had credit for a year or so, you will not get a higher number as someone who's had credit for years and years and years. Next is your credit mix. Again, the things that are you using that are different. And finally, credit inquiries. Now, credit inquiries do not hit your number as bad as some people think. All right, and there are certain things that you can get credit inquiries for that don't hit your number at all. For an example, if there's a company where you already have credit and you've had credit and then you want them to look at it again, they won't hit you so much. If you're out buying a car and you're shopping around for different people to finance it, that inquiry will not affect your credit as much. Now, there are certain folks, I've discovered young people who don't have credit and don't understand the value of having good credit, don't think they need it. Well, let me tell you what good credit does. Not only does it help you when you're ready to make a purchase, but it also helps you when you're ready to rent. A good credit, do you know that even auto insurers look at your credit rating when they're giving you rates for your auto insurance? There's employers. And all the year, there's some employers that look at your credit rating before they employ you. They said, well, is this a trustworthy person? Especially if you happen to want to get into an industry that has anything to do with money. Now, let me give you a few techniques on how to build credit. One is see if someone who has credit or has a credit card will add you to their number. Now, it has to be somebody who trusts you, but if you could add them, if you could be added as user, you can use their good credit number to help you. Find a person who's willing to co-sign. You can use their credit number in order to help you. Look for buying unsecured credit cards. You can use that number in order to help them, and sometimes getting a small loan. We're also, over the next few weeks, going to talk about budgeting and the importance of budgeting. And I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes on that, and we're going to move forward, and we'll get in more. We'll take a deep dive the next time we meet. The budget that I like to use is called 50-20-20-10, where 50% of my income go to needs. Mortgage, LG&E bill, utilities, travel, things that I need. 20% of my money go to wants, things that I want. If I like playing golf, new clothes, things that I want. 20% of my money goes to paying off debt. When I had credit card debt, and some of that went to savings. I tried to save 10% of my gross income, and then 10% of my money goes to the church. That I believe that you always give back, and giving back is the things that you do. Finally, again, let me say this, and this comes from a book called Sun Tzu. I have to pull it off the shelf right before today's broadcast. And it talked about the keys to success, and I'll read. The keys to a successful offense are information, that's what we're sharing with you guys, preparation, and skill. Often, what causes confusion is not enough information, not enough time to prepare, and not enough skill training. And finally, and again, thank you for allowing me in your home again this week, vote. Vote. This is the most important election in our lifetime. We cannot keep this man in office. Vote. Get out there. There's no excuse. There are multiple ways to vote. You can vote early. You can vote absentee. You can ask for an absentee ballot up until October 9th. It's right around the corner. So if you're going to do it, vote. Have a good day. And remember, money matters. It's not what money that's bad, it's how people abuse money that's bad. Again, have a great day.